Welcome to Marked Close One, where we talk about how sales and marketing work together. We skip the theory and business school buzzwords to give you practical strategies you can use today to fill your pipeline and close deals faster. Let's get to it.
Hey everyone, thanks for again tuning in to Mark Close One. We're going yet another episode into the marketing that makes real money. This particular one is going to be in regards to wrong platform, right ego, channel mistakes that can really drain a budget. I've got my friend here yet again, Mark Stafford, if you would.
Hello. How's it going?
Right? It's going well. It's going well. I think this one's going to be an interesting topic.
Yeah,
and
I think it is too.
particularly, right? I think it's going to be very situational, is where I would say the vast majority of this is going to go. I kind of am just expecting of what these questions are going to be going back and forth. And so I think it's going to be it depends. And then we'll go from there. But I think what we can do is at least highlight a couple different ideas. We might be able to kind of go into at least of what, from a sales and from a marketing perspective of like, what are we really, thinking? What is our train of thought? What was the initials of where we would go? What would be the insights and the particulars that we would look at when it comes to putting our marketing budget towards something? And kind of with that, the theme that I was thinking in this is going to be like marketing in the wrong places because it's trendy, not because customers are truly there. And where I want to kind of throw this at you is what's the biggest everyone's doing it marketing trend that produces basically nothing that you've seen?
Well, first of all, thanks, Jonathan. First of all, I want to acknowledge the fact that they're doing a training seminar here at the office today. And so you may see, people walking around in the background in suits and
hey, it's a busy workplace. We're good.
It's busy. And there's kind of, there's a lot of ruckus in the background, but yeah, we're just kind of doing things right now. So, Jonathan, I'm going to answer this question and probably everyone today with this answer. It depends. I would say the one that is probably most often the culprit is one of many social media channels that people will be like, well, this company that is not related to my industry is getting great success at this social media channel. So therefore I should put my money in that too. And so sometimes it's because it's not related. Other times it's a budget issue that, that company is getting a lot of success, but they also have a lot of money and some expertise to put into that channel that you don't have. And sometimes it's a messaging issue that company has their messaging dialed in for that channel. And this other company really hasn't even thought it through. They just hope that they can boost some posts along the way and it's going to magically turn into sales. It just takes a little bit more effort than that because people are getting pretty clever on these channels these days.
Right. Well, just so we can maybe try to kind of dial this in a little bit with it, because you're right. It's all going to be it depends and here's why kind of answers to these questions. But
that's true.
Let me try to at least narrow it down a bit. Like, how do you decide which channels actually like earn the right to your budget? Do you have a particular method or certain things that you look at when you're kind of honing in of like, what is going to get the advertising dollars?
Yeah, it's 100% your target audience, 100% every time. Who is your absolute best customer with your company, with your organization, with your nonprofit? Who are the people that tend to use your products? And then where are they? It's always that question. And if you can put who uses your product into the media that they consume, that's almost always a good bet. And here's the thing, that if you don't think about that, Jonathan, I think we mentioned this before, that if you don't think about who consumes your media, who your best customer is, they'll almost always just market to yourself. And what I mean is and not you, but business owners will tend to just choose the channels that they personally prefer, the media outlets that they consume, and they'll just assume that because they like it, their customers like it too. And that is one of the biggest mistakes you can make in marketing. Just because you like it does not mean that's where your customers are. And just because you hate a media channel doesn't mean that your customers aren't there. The number one culprit for that is Facebook. People will say to me often, I hate Facebook, so I don't want to advertise there. And I often will say, well, do you love your business or do you hate Facebook? Which one is a stronger feeling for you? Because your customers are on Facebook, in that particular instance. So I think we have to be wise about that.
I've got I've got kind of an ad hoc question. Speaking to this, but also speaking to the opening question, the answer that you provided on that one, I think we could really probably build this out into a full episode, but give me the short teaser version of this at the moment. So if you're going to have somebody that's wanting to actually put money into a particular channel, you were talking about message, you were talking about messaging. What are the things that a company needs to have in place before they even consider the right or accidentally the wrong channel? What do you have a kind of a step-by-step or particular things that you want to have checked off before you're actually advertising at all?
Well, the first answer to that question is it depends. Okay. So the second answer, yeah, I think that you need to understand how that channel works. You need to understand the messaging that works in that channel. You need to have a way of understanding the stats that come from that channel. And you'd have somebody on your team who has some level of expertise of knowing how to get the most out of that channel and how to evaluate if it's working or if it's not. And it needs to be evaluated often. And so that's pretty much universal across every channel. You don't want to go to Facebook or to radio or to magazine or to anything else, billboards, if you don't have some level of measuring if it's working or not. Otherwise, it's just a guessing game, and guessing is a really good way to burn through your marketing budget and have 80% of the things that you're spending money on just not work. And it would be better just to spend the 20% and to spend more money on the 20% that works.
You kind of queued up the next question that I had for you as well with that one. It's like, what is the most common reason companies like choose the wrong platform? Do you see it that it's oftentimes, is it vanity? Is it ego? Is it fear? Competitor envy? Is it bad data and they're just simply assuming that it worked for one company, it's going to work for them? What are the things that you run into the most that you have to maybe strong arm or correct or something like that with somebody that's kind of already handling their marketing themselves?
Yeah. Number one is assumptions. You hit the nail on the head. It's assuming that this is the right fit without actually knowing the data that it is a right fit or not. Two, right there, 1-2 punch is the owner's or the media buyer's personal preference over the preference of the actual buyers. I just mentioned that. Three is the wrong messaging for that platform, messaging that just falls flat, or messaging that they haven't really thought through. If you ever have the tagline for all your fill in the blank needs, you have not thought through your messaging. So if this is Mark Close One for all of your podcasting needs, you have not thought through what this is about. And so you can tell a company has no clue when they have an AI generated logo and they have that as their tagline, and they really don't understand what it is that emotionally causes people to choose their company over another one.
I like that a lot because, well, I'll beat up Mark Close One with that one too. I've sold in so many different industries, from SMB to Fortune 50 to, 3 and 4 figure deals to 6 and 7 figure deals. It's so widespread that it makes that part difficult. When building out the concept of like what Mark Close One was going to be, it was nice to be, and it was something that was, I would say, relatable, because we could simply hone in. We focus on the sales funnel. I don't deal with any of the other fluff, but we talk about lead gen, of pouring stuff, pouring leads into the funnel, conversion, and closing business. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that, where if you've got so many companies that say we are for all your X needs, it's ridiculous, because there's no way that that company is going to be able to provide and be a solution for everything on a particular market or industry or vertical or so on. And so you really do need to tighten that messaging down.
Yeah, that really is them marketing to their own ego, saying that I am the expert in everything that relates to this particular industry. I am the best and I can do it all. That is marketing to ego. That is not marketing to consumers.
With that one, usually the next question that I see with people that are wanting to market into a particular channel, when does organic content make sense versus when does it make sense to actually use a paid ad, pay-per-click, and so on? Do you see where there's a differentiator on that one, and what's your approach to it?
So first of all, it depends.
Of course it does.
It depends. Okay. Is your industry a thought leader, or is your industry a service organization that's not a thought leader? And so
interesting. Okay.
I think those are the two differentiators. If people hire you because they realize you have an innovative product and that you have the greatest expertise with this innovative product of any place in the world, and they're glad to pay a premium for your services because of your expertise and your innovation, then yeah, you should be digging into organic content really deeply. And I would say that's true for the advertising space, right? Because we want to be innovative, we want to be cutting edge, we want to be, um, out there doing, with all the latest tools and AI and whatnot, right? There are other industries, I don't want to pick on anyone in particular, but there are other industries that it's just not that innovative. It doesn't take thought leadership in order for that industry to succeed. I guess I already picked on this one, so I'm going to pick on it again. Towing. Towing is there's just nothing really innovative about lowering down the ramp and hooking up the chain and dragging the car up on there. Like, you don't have to be a thought leader. However, sometimes we still blog for towing companies because the fact that we want them to be found for tire change and roadside assistance and some of these kind of things. But I think I would spend more of my time, again, not that we spend zero time on those things, but I would spend more of my time on the pay-per-click ads and on connections into where the referrals come, from referral sources and lead generation sources on a company like that, then I would really pour a lot of time into making sure that they have the most innovation for the hydraulic system they have in their trucks or something, unless they really are doing something that is truly innovative that nobody else offers. And I suppose I have seen that in the towing space,
right?
But they have a different way of towing a car, or they can tow a car that nobody else can tow. If it's truly innovative, great, highlight that. If it's not, then I would spend my time on lead gen sources and pay-per-click ads rather than a lot of content.
That makes sense. It's kind of funny on how these questions that I wrote up for you, you're almost like leading into the next one with it. When you're dealing with the different channels, or you can kind of considering like starting a new one, is like, do you have any like particular like quick tests, something to validate that channels before you're actually dumping a large portion of your marketing budget into it?
I think the big answer is there should be some kind of data that exists either in general knowledge or specifically from that particular media source that tells you how widespread their distribution is and who tends to consume their media the most. That's if they don't have that, if they don't know that, they typically aren't a good bet. But the ones who have been around a long time, they really understand who they're talking to really clearly, and you just need to ask that question. Who are you talking to? Who tends to consume this media? Who's been successful on here? And then buy enough of it to where it makes a difference, understand how that channel works. I think that's the long and short of that question, I think.
I kind of had a follow up with that one as well, because I didn't want to like lead you in an answer on that one, but with the way that I look at it from a sales end too, I always look at it as a game of probability. You need to know the particular stats that are involved in that. And if you're just starting to market, you need to go where the highest probability of being able to get a lead and then close a lead. And those are basically the same things that you've already been touching on with the prior questions of that one. But the next question would be, is what's the next step? If I was wanting to look at maybe a secondary channel or a third or so on, you don't want to have it where you're taking all of your budget from one and just pouring it into the other and hoping for the best. This is of where you might want to start having a small ad spend. You might want to have it where you start A/B testing, and you can actually determine if A, is there any response at all, and then B, of A and B, which one is getting the most response from it. And you're just kind of continuously testing these different channels as it all progresses. That's the way that I kind of care from a sales end. I just want the lead to come in. I want somebody to raise their hand for a service so that we can have that conversation.
Let me say this, John. I haven't really, it just came to mind now, honestly. Rather than saying it depends yet once again, because that's always true, because there are so many variables. For any one industry, there are some AI tools that are really very, very good out there.
Very.
And so for data analysis, something like Copilot works really, really well. It's remarkably good. And so without getting a degree in business statistics, which is a terribly boring thing to even say out loud, I can
actually agree to that, because I took several of those classes, and they still, it's been 14 years and some of them still cause nightmares.
Yeah, I have taken those classes as well. So yeah, that's terrible. They're terrible awful classes. There's symbols I don't understand in those things. However, going into something like Copilot and saying, okay, this is the kind of business I'm in. Here's where I'm having success. Here's my return on investment currently. Suggest for me 3 other channels I might try and how much I need to spend on each one of those channels in order to be successful. And then what the best practices are for each one of those channels. And I tell you what it'll spit out a lot of times is, I mean, it put me out of a job. I mean,
Right.
it puts some stuff out there. I go, yeah, that's a good place to start. It's way better than a guess, because it really is.
Exactly.
It is basing it on data and on best practices that's seeing around the internet. So how about that's a better answer than it depends.
Right. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, John, let me tell you this. I mean, you've had a lot of, on the other side, you've had a lot of marketing guys who have been out there generating leads for you. Is there ever a single source that you kind of go, man, this source really seems to always get me good results, or this process seems to get me the best people on the phone? Like, what would that look like for you? Where do your best leads actually come from?
Well, I guess we need to kind of keep with the same story. It depends. From at least of what I've always seen, if you have somebody that is seeking out for your service and you simply having a cold outreach and you're being the one that's marketing to them, usually if you have somebody that has a need, those are where the best customers are coming from, because as long as it's something that your product or your service is able to provide, the way that they'll see it is they've kind of been able to scratch that initial itch of, I have this problem. This fire is in my lap. This is this thing that I need to solve. My job is in jeopardy, whatever it may be. And you're able to provide them a solution. Now, from the solution sales, which is the thing that I've always trained my account executives and so on, is I want to be able to do more than just simply that one problem being solved. I want to be able to build out an overarching solution for them. But I would say that would be the first place that I would look at from what you would consider the best customers that are coming in from some sort of lead magnet or whatnot. The next one would be, if we had it of where it was some sort of cold outreach or something like that, it would be kind of more along the lines of if you're honing in closer and closer to that ideal customer, the closer they are to that particular target would be the next that I would say would be next best.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, if you're used to selling for Fortune 50 companies and, you need to get executives on the phone all day long.
Right.
That's great. But as soon as you start saying, all right, now we're going to advertise on Pinterest, and you start getting stay-at-home dads on the phone instead.
Right.
Maybe not your best vertical there. That's for somebody else.
I'll be honest, I have never really thought about even marketing on Pinterest. So yes, that would not be at least of where my experience is from.
No, it would be the wrong channel. So what about, I mean, if you could place your company in front of the right people, like, where is that? Like, how would a person think about that? Maybe just talk about the process, because I mean, just give the example of, like, a corporate going to corporate and, stay-at-home dads going to stay-at-home dad products. But how does a company decide who they're going to put their company in front of?
I would want to separate this out, because I feel like I would say for the majority of this answer on this one, Mark, you've kind of already answered it from you've got to know your message, your messaging. You've got to have the mechanical pieces behind it so that you can manage these leads. Right. But then you have to be able to target these particular channels. I would say from a sales end, that's a little bit more combination of sales and marketing would be where you could get in front of your customers. If this would be like a trade show, they have the landscaping and design market that they always have out here in Phoenix.
Right.
If you have a product or if you have a service that is incredibly tactile, if you're able to say that, it comes from this dirt plot and we have this, amazing oasis or something like that, those would be the kind of the approaches that I would think that you need to get in front of your customers. They must have really liked that answer, because all I hear is clapping in the background.
They love that answer. They were all listening in. They're like, yes, Jonathan, that's exactly right.
Landed that plane. But I think those are the particulars that I would say would be outside of marketing. What I would really look at from a sales end is, how can you get in front of these people, even technically bypassing the vast majority of the marketing lead gen and so on, of where you can get your salespeople in front of them, be able to speak, be able to do discovery, be able to train and teach, and being able to actually provide a solution that these prospects might be running into.
All right. Now, how do you know that somebody is giving you a bunch of baloney? Now, Here's what I mean. The guy, we've all had him, that you got this guest of the run on a channel and not seeing anything from it. So call him up and say, man, something's wrong. I'm not seeing any leads coming from this source. And, sometimes people call us up with this, that's just to be transparent. That happens sometimes. Right. How do you know when they say to you, hey, just give us some more time, this thing takes a while to convert, that really is their way of saying, continue paying me because I want to continue making money, or that something really does take a while to convert on that channel and they're not pulling your leg at all. Like, what channels actually close fast and which ones can have kind of a long life cycle? And how do you know if you're wasting your money on something that really doesn't have a long life cycle, but the sales guy is just pulling your leg?
I'm going to throw a portion of this question back to you. Fair. But the way that, Lisa, that I would look at it from a sales end is, as long as you have, the understanding the product, understanding your ideal customer, understanding your messaging that you're going to provide, of where you have everything squared up there, that you're not have an account executive that is, let's say solely relationship focused, and all that they're wanting to do is just chat with the prospect or something. If you have all of that dialed in from a sales perspective, and you're starting to see that these leads don't match the particular persona, you have to understand that there's going to be a closing probability. It's going to be a part of that conversion. You're going to see, let's say, 1 in 4 people that you're speaking with, if they fit that ideal persona, then you're probably in a pretty good situation from a lead gen perspective. But if you're having it of where there's not a single person that you can sell to, you need to kick this back to marketing, because there is definitely going to be something wrong either from the messaging or from the particular channel and so on. Now, kicking this back to you on that one, Mark, would you kind of agree with that general assessment? If sales has their ducks in a row, everything is honed in from there, they're doing the discovery, the training, the prospecting, and all this sort of stuff, what would you have that same initial thought from a marketing perspective is like, okay, the sales guys are trying and I'm providing them nothing. It's got to be something with the channel. Would you think that way?
Yeah, that can go both ways. Yeah, because obviously, if I'm looking at leads and I'm like, these are actually pretty solid leads, and they're just not getting closed, and that's not really a marketing problem. That's a sales problem. But yeah, if it's like legit, again, to get back to that example, I'm giving you all stay-at-home dads, and you can't close corporate sales with them. And it's like, kind of like, well, that's a no duh problem. We obviously have something in the wrong channel. But I like that statistic that you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. Matter of fact, I would say you wouldn't even get it right most of the time. But there needs to be a high enough percentage of the right people that the sales guys are talking to where you say, okay, we're barking up the right tree. And or it could be that we have the right person, but they're in the wrong season. They already have somebody, or they don't have the budget for it, or they just had a big hit in their company, but they are the right person. So I think that's just a conversation between the sales and marketing guys to say, yeah, we're getting the right people, but they're not ready. That's different than saying we're getting completely the wrong demographic here.
Yeah.
And we're not even close. We're not even the ballpark of what we need here. Then you need to change the tactics.
And I think this kind of goes back to that first episode that we had, is that there's not a competition when it comes to this. That civil war should not exist between sales and marketing. It should be one of those of where
this is
going to be another good answer. Is that
that's such a good answer.
Each person needs to look introspectively first. They need to make sure that their particular department is all squared up, shored up, doing their job. And once that doesn't work, that's when you finally lob the ball to the other side to see, is there something else that might be going on? And I would say that would work on both ends. If marketing is hitting the ideal customer, but sales is not being able to close them, there's probably something wrong with the sales process or training or something like that that's happening. But if these account executives are seasoned, they've got a lot of experience, they've got a lot of statistics backing them up that they can close these particular deals. But with whatever the leads that are coming in that marketing is providing that they're not closing, it needs to be kicked back over to marketing to see, do they need to hone in? Do they need to, stop this particular test that they're doing? Do they need to hone in on a individual channel or another marketing message or so on?
Right. So tell me what that looks like when it shows up on a call. When a call shows up and it's just completely a channel mismatch, like, how does that call go? And how would the sales guys be able to tell that, like, this isn't just an outlier once in a while, but we are generally getting the wrong kind of people at the door?
Right. This will show up in a couple different methods. I would say is the easiest one, at least to kind of, transfer to the audience. I was speaking about it in one of our other episodes of where we had our marketing team that was literally just trying to hit a lead quota. But what they were doing is they were targeting keywords that had a 0% conversion. One of these things, it was a free service. They're rather than diving into the nomenclature and all the techie stuff that I used to sell. They used to have it of where you could have free whatever it was. Our product wasn't free. What we did is we provided a 1-week trial. And then after that, it went to, I think my minimum price was $5,000. So I went from 0 for a week to mid 4 figures.
$5,000.
And
oh my gosh.
So what would happen is that
and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I thought I was getting this thing for free, but you want $5,000 from this thing? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so what will happen is marketing kind of already preset this prospect to think, I can get this for free. This is awesome. All these different things that I'm going to be able to do for this. And then it's immediately sticker shock. That now it's going to be along the lines of, well, I'll just find a different service. I'll just do this myself. It's
like such a jump. I mean, it's one thing. It's like, it's free to $50. I get that. But I guess if it's really explicit up front that, yeah, it's a free trial, but this is a enterprise level service. Yeah. That's a little different. Try out our enterprise level service, but know that this is going to be expensive. Then at least it's not a shock when it comes.
Right. But I mean, those would be the things that you would run into. They would. What happens from that is you've got now a bad taste. Somebody will think that it's a bait and switch. You're going to have it where you've already been burning your marketing budget. You're already wasting your sales, account executive's time, where it's just continuously costing the company more and more, versus in that particular instance, you should have just got rid of that particular channel or that particular keyword and focused on the ones that actually have a higher conversion rate. But that's probably the best example that I've ran across that's easy to digest.
So when you're managing a sales team, how do you typically have them track their leads so that's accurate? Like we talked to a guy the other day. He owned a donut shop, and he was saying that pretty much everybody comes in the door. I don't know if he's just blowing smoke at us or not, but he said everybody comes in the door. We ask him how they heard about us. And man, that's a lot. Everybody that comes in the door. But anyway, I digress. But he goes, we just want to be able to track at the register how people are hearing about the company. And so we know what our sources are. How have you typically done that with your sales team so they know like where their sources are coming from, and so that you can put some more firepower behind those sources that are working?
Right. There's a couple different ways of how you could manage this. I think in most situations where if it's digital, there should be a way to be able to track it. The CRM, I've used several. Most of them will be able to catch it. If it's going to be like a keyword, it would be able to see if it was an exact match, or if it was a phrase of it. You'd be able to see if it was from a mailer. You might be able to have it where there's a coupon just so that they can actually show you that they got the mailer, that they're wanting to redeem this. I think those would be the easiest, more automated ways to do that. For a company that's just kind of starting up, the guy from the donut shop is probably about the best way that you can do it is just simply ask, how did you hear from us? What brings you in today? What did you see something that caught your eye? There'd be several on that one, but I think you're going to have to do it manually until you can get those automated steps in place to be able to automate that process, because you're not going to be able to ask every single customer. You're going to get busy. You're going to forget. That manual process will be only so good. But if you can automate it for that, it's every lead that's coming in, then it's really going to be opening up that aperture of all the different statistics of what you're seeing, so that you can make better marketed decisions in the future because of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right.
Well, then I tell you what, I mean, I suppose we should talk about what we do if we need to cut of, a channel, or, how we manage this, right?
Oh, okay. I'm going to kick this one at you then, because I think that's a good idea. Let me give you a scenario. Okay. You're paying X. We'll just keep the number vague on this one, but you have a marketing budget of X and we need to cut it by 30%. And we'll say we have to do it tomorrow, so that we put some urgency in there. Do you have a particular method, or how would you go through that process of cutting these different channels, looking at these different leads, where your marketing budget is and so on? Do you have like a general method on how you would approach that?
I mean, I think there's only a couple of steps I would take. I mean, first of all, I would look at the ones that are most carefully aligned with my target audience.
Mhm.
And so I think I would look at that before I even looked at the stats. Because if I was selling coffee to coffee lovers on a very popular coffee website, I want to continue pushing on that, even if I'm not seeing the results I want right now, because the channel is so narrow that would make sense to me that I continue pushing on that until the statistics tell me something differently. So a perfectly aligned ad to a perfectly targeted customer base, I wouldn't want to move that too fast.
Mhm.
However, the rest is just statistics. It's just statistics. You got to know your return on investment. I mean, and I think everybody knows that. If you got one channel that's just underperforming, you cut that channel when the going gets tough. And I don't think that's a real unobvious question.
Well, let me throw a different caveat at you. So that's the way if you were going to have to reduce spend. Let's just say that today your marketing budget doubles. Do you kind of take the same general method? Would you immediately almost kind of want to go into a spray and pray? Well, what's your approach that you would take if all of a sudden that, it was 2x versus it simply just being the original budget?
Yeah, I mean, I would think about either one. I'd take a look at the channels that are working, especially if that channel is, again, just really closely aligned with my vertical. 2, I would think about, can I take a product that maybe I'm not pushing right now that I can easily do if I can just get it in front of the right people? I would think about implementing some of those no-brainer additional products.
Mhm.
Like, I'll get back to this gun parts manufacturer. He has this gun part that we work with him, and he has this main part that he sells on a regular basis, and he has customers coming in for that. But as he's been able to increase his budget, he's got now an accessory for that part that now he's able to say, well, let me put a little bit of money in this accessory because the same buyers are going to buy this accessory if I can just tell them that it exists. And I already got the guys in house. We already got the tools to make it. It's a good market for us. So not something that's completely unrelated, but I can use the same tools to make this same part or this accessory. And all I really need is a little bit of marketing behind it to get it to move. I would be looking at those kind of options around my company first.
Let me throw this last one at you as well. From the listenership, I would assume that it's probably not best in this instance of where you just double the ad spend on all of the channels that you're currently doing. I'm assuming there's probably going to be a diminishing return at some point. Would you agree with that one, or is there any particular things to look out for in those instances if somebody was going to be able to just double their ad spend overnight?
Man, that gets back to that terrible statistics class.
Quantitative and managerial analysis and statistics still gives me shudders.
I mean, they'll teach you in statistics class that almost everything has a bell curve. Almost everything, it'll increase really quickly at first, and then it'll start having like a little bit less increase as it goes to go up, and then it'll almost always reach the top of that bell curve and have diminishing returns after that. Almost everything has that. So, and that has to do with just collecting the right data and making sure that that data is being analyzed. If you have the bandwidth to do that inside of I think of a small business, man, we just talked to a lady today, right?
Yeah.
She's running 4 different businesses and she's like just scattered, like how in the world she can't even keep people scheduled, much less to analyze her statistics, Bringing in a partner to help with that is certainly a good idea. And that's the case for a lot of small businesses, man. They don't have time or the bandwidth to really do the analysis. You get into corporate organizations and that's what a CMO would do. He would sit down and really look at all those statistics and make sure that their things aren't firing the way they should. So there's not an easy answer to that question, but you're right that sometimes you do get to a place where I've spent twice as much. I'm not getting twice as many leads without tracking that. But other times, Jonathan, the opposite is true. I spent twice as much. I got 4 times as many leads. And how do you know? Unless you're actually tracking those stats along the way and can actually analyze the data.
That makes a lot of sense on that one too.
Yeah.
Let's do this one more because I think this was a great topic, but it is again one of those the answers are almost always it depends. But I think it was kind of a good message overall. Just of like if you have a great message but you're on the wrong platform, it's still wrong. You're building awareness. Well, you're not really building awareness in that particular instance. Really, all that you're doing is you're pouring money into a particular algorithm that's not bringing leads.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
The stay-at-home dad does not need awareness over the corporate products. That does not
Right.
do him any good. He might be aware of it all day long, but what is he going to do with that information?
Right, exactly. But I think this is a great place to end on this one. So, hey,
Did you hear that?
They're excited about it again. Yeah.
They're excited about it
So
again.
with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for staying with us and kind of just having this conversation when it comes to just dealing with the wrong platform, mismatching the channel and it just having it work straight in the budget. So what we'll do is we'll continue on with this a little longer and go into some additional subjects. So thank you.
All right. See you later.